There are some key issues that we addressed in December, which we wanted addressed. However, we came up with an agreement to government that we cannot be on strike until the issues are addressed. Some are a bit complex and required further subcommittees to work on. Key amongst this was the end to slavery, because you've had doctors working in Kenyatta and Mathare. They do all the work there and they take home absolutely no pay. And we thought that was not a good idea. And we had raised this as from March 2011 and finally went on strike in December 2011 concerning this. A subcommittee was formed, and that subcommittee was meant to create a modality for compensating them as agreed in the return to work formula. Secondly, our union also considers the need to improve public sector healthcare infrastructure. This was one of the demands in the December 5th strike, and we agreed we are going to form a task force that will look into the infrastructural and policy issues and make recommendations. We had this task force sit for 1.5 months, came up with the missing task force report. Now this report has remained in the shelves, gathering dust, and I can guarantee you the Minister for Medical Services has not read it. At least by last month he had not read it. Okay. Then we also have, we had also agreed that money will be paid for postgraduate training. We need specialists, and the government had stopped postgraduate training. So this was to be reinstated, and 181 million, 200 million actually, was meant to be released for training of specialists in the key universities, University of Nairobi and Moi University School of Medicine. Now this money was actually released in March, and when the finance bill was passed, it was expected to be paid. But somehow between Treasury and the universities which they never got to, this money has gotten lost somewhere. So we're asking for accountability. So it's these three key issues that we're asking about. 1, end to slavery; 2, end to corruption; and 3, end to dilapidation through the implementation of the Muslim Task Force report. Okay. Don't intend to keep them. They put pen to paper and they renege the very next day. So this has been a major issue, and hopefully it will not, it's actually the best way to solve the strike issues is for the government to keep its word. If you don't intend to keep a promise, don't make the promise in the first place. Because the result, as you've seen every time, 6 months, 3 months down the line, the same people who went into agreements are already complaining. Okay. Yeah. There has actually been a strike since August 27th, yes. And we've had doctors, registrars in Kenyatta and Mathare being on strike. Now, there are doctors who, all these doctors have been evicted from the houses. The salaries have been stopped. They've been given eviction notices. We have a court order against this. Okay. So this is a form of intimidation that we're referring to. Other doctors all over the country are also being threatened with dismissals and sackings. So that's another issue. But we have a court order against this, and we'll take action against those who are intimidating our members. Okay. Well, our doctors' strike actually is a strike I don't understand who would oppose. I don't know who supports slavery, because you're saying end slavery. Nobody should work without pay anywhere in the world. That stopped 200 years ago. And now you work without pay, and you're told if you don't stop this, you're going to get salary stopped. You're going to be, not salary actually, you're going to be evicted from your houses. Your training is going to be stopped. So you have to keep working for free. That has to stop. And I was expecting Minister for Medical Services, who's an advocate for social justice, to come out and strongly defend the registrars in their quest for pay. Okay. Secondly, end to corruption. That should be everybody's goal. If you don't want to stop corruption, you have no business being in leadership. Okay. And thirdly, the end of dilapidation in our public institutions. So these are issues that I was expecting every single person to support. In fact, the strike we're having on Thursday is an unnecessary strike. It's a strike of mischief brought about by a lack of concern by the ministry officials. And we are saying, be a bit more concerned about healthcare, and there'll be no strike this coming Thursday. We may have a demonstration on Thursday, but again, we don't want to inconvenience the public. People will just withdraw from work. We'll attend to emergencies this time round so the public don't suffer. But I can tell you that all doctors all over the country will not be working on Thursday, except for a few will be catering for emergencies. Okay. Yeah. The lack of concern with healthcare is appalling. Right now, patients have been suffering in Kenyatta for almost 2 weeks, and the government has been silent. We are faced with a very unnecessary strike. The cost of paying all these registrars, we built the Vice President's mansion for 400 million. That is enough money to pay all the registrars for 2 whole years, all the self-sponsored registrars for 2 whole years. The Minister for Public Health Sanitation, when she went to the United States, she spent over 100 million shillings for her treatment and her team that visited her there. That's enough money to pay all the registrars for 6 months. You know, these are people with families and children. If we are concerned ourselves a bit more with healthcare, just a bit more, we'd get somewhere. Okay. So yeah, that's our message to the government.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. I really do.